Hey, how's everybody doing? And welcome to the fish room. It's been a while since my last video, so I got some stuff I want to catch up and kind of give you some updates. Right now I'll take a quick just kind of walkthrough of all the tanks. I've been focusing a lot more on some of my planted aquariums, and I have some other projects coming up, but let's go ahead, let's check out the fish tanks. We'll kind of go tank by tank. Maybe go a little bit quicker through them today, but get an update because I know it's been a few months since my last video, so let's go ahead and check it out. We're gonna go kind of from right to left of the fish room. Here's kind of a good shot of the angelfish here. I do have a little clip here from the front side on the other side. I'll show that right now. But yeah, I think his tank's looking really good. The plants are coming in nice. I did show that little clip right now because it's hard to see from the back side of the tank and with the lighting, but we got some dwarf neon rainbows in there, like the Pleco rainbows. We got some of the siamese algae eaters. We got a school like 7 of each of those. We got one big angelfish that's going to be growing up in here, and I think I have a super red bristlenose Pleco in here as well. Moving to this little 5.5 gallon fluval tank. I had this been running for quite some time, and I got some really cool guppies in here, I think. They're not really breeding much just because it's such a small tank and there's a kind of a fast flow. I think they eat the babies in here, and I probably should get some more male to female ratio, but this tank's doing well. I kind of start some plants in here and then I can take some clippings and move them to other tanks. But right now it's kind of just doing its own thing. One kind of random tip that's really helpful. This tank was absolutely covered in algae because I just haven't really been up to date on all my stuff as much. But if you go ahead and just use a little razor blade, I bought a pack of these years ago. It was like, I have in this drawer, it was like 50 razor blades for like under $10, and I use them all the time. They get rusty, you throw them away. This glass was so dirty. If you look from the back side, it was, you can't really see it, but it was like that everywhere. So I scraped the back top there so you can kind of see the comparison. I cleaned this front window. Front piece of glass, and it took me not even a minute or two just to go through it. Came off super easy, so that's a lifesaver. If you guys aren't cleaning your glass with razor blades when you get that tough algae, I definitely recommend doing that. I'll put some links in the description below for some products I use, but let's go ahead and move over to the next tank and check out some more guppies and shrimp. So this tank's got a lot going on, but I actually like it a lot. I didn't intentionally put any duckweed in here, but it started growing and it's actually doing a good job of pulling out some of those nitrates. I've been netting it out of there. That all kind of grew overnight in like 2 weeks, week or two's time. It kind of just covered the whole top. The moss in here is taking off. It's kind of everywhere in the middle. It's even attached itself to these sponge filters in the back, which I think is really cool. It's like little moss islands. And then if you guys remember my old video when I grew plants from seeds, I haven't touched this. I haven't done any fertilizers in here. I really hardly do water changes on this tank because I have a lot of shrimp. And it's kind of just growing like crazy. The snails and the scuds pick at it a little bit, so there's some holes in the leaves, but all in all, it's growing pretty well. I grew to the top. It was actually growing out of the water, and I snipped those off, and they're kind of floating now. I'll grow some roots, and I'll plant them down in another tank. But in here, we have a lot of those trapdoor snails, I believe they are, or ram's horn snails. They're doing pretty well. I do have to add some calcium buffers. You can see this is where I fed the algae wafer last. They kind of just clump up there. Really cool snails. They breed pretty effortlessly. I never even really tried to. Back here you can see some more of the shrimp. We have those orange shrimp in here. They're doing well. Not a whole lot of babies now just because they're kind of all competing for food. And I do feed this tank every day pretty heavily with algae wafers. I give them like one big algae wafer twice a day. And these algae wafers are big. Just so you can see, there's the algae wafer right there, and then there's the ones I used to feed. They kind of discontinued them temporarily. They were out of stock last time I ordered them. So if you want to get some algae wafers, I'll put these in a link below, but these big ones last a long time. And you can see there's actually, that's from last night, so they're all kind of clumping up on it. But I only feed them whenever the next algae wafer is gone. So if I come back later that night, there's no algae wafers, I'll put another one in there, or I'll give them a portion of one. But if it's still kind of feeding off it, I'll leave it. It goes for all my tanks. If they haven't finished it, don't add more. Kind of find and dial in how much food they really need. and it always changes, especially when you're breeding stuff and you get more and less babies, or you sell stuff. Just to point out, I did write pea puffer on here, because that was my goal for this tank. I want to kind of sell all the shrimp, start to sell some of the snails and move the snails to another tank, and then get some pea puffers in here to kind of clear out all the scuds. So I think this would be a really cool tank for some dwarf pea puffers, maybe one, maybe like 6 of them in here, and then they can kind of just go to town on all these little scuds in this tank. I think it'd be really kind of a cool ecosystem of a tank where I can kind of breed the scuds in here, and then the puffers can kind of slowly pick away at them. Maybe eventually get it completely clean. I could put shrimp back in there and take the pea puffer, put them somewhere else, and kind of repeat that cycle and have a couple tanks of breeding like food for my other fish. Moving over here to the next tank, we have some baby plecos I put in here from the caves whenever they're tiny babies, so they've grown a lot. They were in here since day one. Little tip for you guys, if you're doing water changes and you're filling up with the python hose, I use that PVC or like the J hose that hooks onto the tank when I fill it up, and you don't want to disrupt all of your sand or plants. Put a little flower pot in there. That's one thing I found that helps if you're not just pouring into your hand like from a bucket or cups. That works with small tanks, but if you're doing larger water changes, this is something new and I actually think it works really well. Toss a little flower pot in there, aim it down so it's pushing in there and it kind of flows out, so you're not disrupting the whole tank and kind of making this whole moss turn into circles. That's helped this moss grow a lot better. It's really thick right now. This is growing just off of these 2 little LED puck lights. If you remember my old fish rack, I had like one of these over each tank, and I've never had moss really grow that well with them. But it's super dense, super thick. I'm actually pretty impressed with how this came out. And it is starting to kind of root to the top too, which I think is just kind of neat. And the guppies in here got some babies, not a whole bunch of them, but there are a couple. These guys are pretty cool looking, I think. They're kind of like an orange delta tail, just like a hybrid of guppies, but this tank's pretty cool, nothing too crazy. You got snails in there too. Moving down, we'll stick with the 10 gallons. Nothing too crazy in here. I kind of saved these fish. Someone was tearing down a tank, moving for vacation or something, but we went ahead. I got rid of some of those guppies that were breeding in here. It wasn't a great successful kind of breeding project, so I got these just hanging out for now. This is just media that I'm letting it get cycled for whenever I want to set up a new tank or a new filter. So pretty basic setup there. Over here, this is my new little mascot for the fish room. I got a little red-bellied piranha. I think he's super cool. He's not super active. He kind of hangs out. Can't really see him too well, but he's a little skittish. He's lower in the fish room, so his tank's a little bit colder, so I don't think he's as active. But he'll go ahead. He'll eat any little guppies that aren't going to do the best. Any of those crooked backs is kind of what I'm doing recently. Keeping the fish room kind of in a full swing of a full ecosystem. I named him Cullen because I think it's funny, but he's the man. I'll show some videos of him in the future if you guys want to see me feeding him, but I won't do that today in the fish room tour. Moving over here, we got our 55 gallons. So these 2 bottom tanks, they used to have the shop lights on them. I don't know why there was a linkable shop light. I got them from Honeywell, like through Sam's Club, but that was the brand. They did break, but they have it was really weird. The one shorted out, and then the next one shorted out like a couple weeks later. No idea why. I have these ones up top. They've been running strong for me for like 4 or 5 years without replacing them. But these ones were the linkable ones. I don't know if we had a power outage or whatever went wrong. But they have like a 5-year warranty, so hopefully they get back to me. If you guys are watching, give me some new lights, because I do have all my receipts and stuff. But so as for right now, I just have a little old light here, and the floating plants are still staying alive. I've been doing this for about a month. They're not as strong as they were, but they're not all dying back, and the moss is still kind of hanging in there too, but the lighting's pretty poor. It's hard to see. We got our male guppies in here doing pretty good. A couple of them can probably go to Colin, but otherwise I think they look pretty good. Sell them here and there. We have a bunch of our adult bristlenose plecos. There's a nice lemon blue eye there. We got our long fin one kind of hiding back, and the glare is just so hard to kind of get these guys. There's a nice fat female. Looks like she could probably breed if I put some caves in here. Not trying to breed them like crazy in this tank, just kind of keep them alive. That's our little DIY water change pipe. Over here, if you have a gravel tank and a lot of plecos, I put these flower pot kind of bases, and that's a good little feeding hole. I drilled some holes in these DIY lids, throw the algae wafers down. I think they can get a lot more food when it lands on a flat surface, whether it's a flat rock. This helps it kind of stay in there and not just all break apart and fall into the gravel. So that's been working out pretty well, but we got a lot of glare here, so we'll keep moving over. Over here we're growing out some angelfish. I've been kind of, I got them from a breeder, got like 50 of them. I've probably sold like 30 or 20 of them, kind of just here and there, and growing out the rest for myself. So this tank I think looks pretty cool. It's real basic, but these guys are super active. They always want to eat. I think they're just fun. I've had them since they were maybe like that big, and now they've probably doubled or tripled in size, and they've got a lot fatter too, but kind of a mix of some kois and marbles. I might keep all these guys, maybe sell another 4 or 5 of them, or just keep a real big school angelfish, maybe do like a 90-gallon tank, all planted with angelfish, so we'll see what happens there. All right, moving up and to the right, this tank's doing really well. These 2 tanks are kind of like my staple. Like if I were to set up a new tank tomorrow and just make a real basic tank for anybody, if you're gonna have one 55-gallon tank just for fun and it doesn't have to look the prettiest, but it's self-sustainable and affordable, get yourself a 55-gallon tank, do some moss on the bottom, do some floating plants, throw a heater in there and some sponge filters, and then get some plecos, snails, guppies, and shrimp. I don't have any shrimp in here, but that's kind of like the perfect combo. Once you do all that, this tank will take care of itself for years and years. With fish actually breeding, not having to buy new fish, kind of the life cycle of plants growing, you have to trim plants, pull them out. You can breed fish, you can sell some of the old plants that you're pulling, sell some of the guppies to help pay for your fish food, just kind of have like a free hobby after you get everything set up. You're gonna put some money into it starting up. You can definitely do it cheaper and more expensive, but I think this tank's awesome. I just did water changes on all my tanks yesterday. So basically now I'm kind of getting back to my old roots of how I used to do water changes. Is whenever my tanks would evaporate a few inches, I'd do a water change, fill it up, and that was that. You do a water change every month or so, and that's kind of just basic. Like right now I'm kind of enjoying my hobby more and not trying to go too crazy and just pump out fish. So I'm trying to sit back and enjoy these tanks a little bit more. The guppies are doing well. Anything that needs kind of pulled out so they're not inbreeding. If any of the fish need pulled out, that's kind of why I have like my little piranha tank. I do pull them out and I do kind of feed them to him. It all works out for kind of the better of the tank, where you don't want sick fish being with your other fish, or crooked back fish having babies and making more. Just not ideal fish. It's not really like a good life for a fish to be struggling to swim 24/7. You still have a little bit of that, like there's a couple here, but that's one thing. It's just kind of gradual. They're still healthy. They just kind of have some slight deformities, which you're gonna have in any fish, but you gotta just kind of keep an eye out for that. But we got a lot of cool plecos in here too. Here's a nice longfin albino. Got the longfin commons here. We do have some babies in this tank. I feed this tank very heavily with algae wafers twice a day. There's another baby over in these flower pots. That's kind of where they like to breed, is in these flower pots. I drill some holes in them. We got 3 sponge filters running, all different sizes of plecos and life. It's a pretty cool tank. Real dense moss over here. It's kind of getting choked out by the top floating plants. So what I gotta do is start pulling more of this wisteria out, because it's just getting too dense. So by removing those plants, it's gonna help bring my nitrates down because they'll keep growing. Then we'll get some more light through to get to the moss. Ideally, like in this tank, what I had was, you can do the moss everywhere or just on the left side. Put your current on the left side, like your bubbles, and then your floating plants on the right. So naturally there's gonna be more light here because all these plants are pushed to the side. This will be dimmer, but you don't have to have as many plants. So that's kind of the way I like to set it up. Right now it's kind of flip-flopped on this tank. I gotta slowly pull that moss over or change the direction of the current. But as for right now, I think it is just getting a little bit too thick. I gotta pull some more of this wisteria out. But there's babies everywhere. You can see these little baby plecos on the front. Let me get a view of them. I had to find him for a second. There he is. So it's kind of hard to see, but these guys are tiny. You can see the little baby snails. So hard to focus too. Kind of hard to see that guy, but you can see the little baby pleco there, and if I back up and put my finger there, you can see just truly how small that little pleco is. So it's pretty cool to see all different stages of life in this tank. We even got snails breeding, but taking a little bit too much time on this tank and struggling with the glare. That's why I don't do as many videos, because it's just so hard to kind of capture it on camera. So it's kind of cool just do a generic and go through all the tanks. But moving over to the next tank here, pretty much the same thing. I won't go too in depth, but we have some super red plecos in here, and they're doing really well. I'm kind of just like hoarding these guys right now because I'm waiting for, like, this guy looks awesome. I think the long fin super red, kind of waiting for them to start breeding because he's getting to that size. We do have some babies. We got some calicos, some red marbles. And these guys, they really are, they're like a 1.5 to 2 year project just to get from babies to adults. So it's hard for me to sell a fish for 15, 20, 30 bucks. It's gonna take me years of time and just countless hours. So it's more so just for the hobby now. If I run out of space, I'll sell some, but I'm not really looking just to sell a ton of fish at this point. I'm really just trying to enjoy them and do some cool projects. It's pretty rewarding to kind of create new fish that are, say you're mixing fish with different colors and you get a whole nother species. So I got a lot of these fish just from crossbreeding. I have videos on that I can talk about in the future, but I ended up, long story short, getting some red marbles from commons. So it's really cool to kind of get those and play around with the genetics and see what you can get and make sure they're still hardy. We also got some cool guppies in here. This is kind of my mixed tank where anything that looks cool, I just throw it in there. Like I think this guy looks awesome with those orange tails. They have nice fins. We got a couple of these yellow ones that I think look neat. Their tails aren't the best. And then we have even a couple like leopard ones I think are always cool. You get kind of like that cobra pattern on the side. But yeah, I think his tank's pretty fun. Next tank over, this tank is absolutely awesome, I think. It's a 29-gallon tank. This is my no water change aquarium. I still haven't done any water changes. I started it in December last year, so we're going on 7 months or so. We got baby guppies in here, baby shrimp. We have lots of plant growth. We have our floating plants make to the top. We got some duckweed in here. Water is super clear. We have a little bit of a burst of baby snails because I went a little crazy with some algae wafers the other week. But this tank is not a whole lot I can get close and kind of show because it just gets such bad glare. But this tank is absolutely awesome, I think. We got a variety of different guppies in here I thought just kind of look cool. We got males showing off. We got some breeding behavior. Lots of plants that have grown. These swords, if you remember when I first put them in, they have melted back, completely regrown. We've got some mother plants, some babies. This is spread from that. It's all growing just under the shop light, which I think is really cool. It's coming down like 4 feet and they're just coming through the floating plants and everything's still growing. We got that nice thick substrate, 3 or 4 inches of sand and some gravel. We can see the roots growing down through it. All in all, I think this tank's just awesome. All I do is top it off and feed it really, and then pull some plants every once in a while. So this tank's really cool. It's always hard to see, so it's kind of frustrating. But I really like this tank. Anyone can do this tank once it's set up. It's very low maintenance. We got a sponge filter in the back, kind of just going low air, so the plants can kind of just chill out. So pretty cool tank. Down here we have our thick substrate as well with some Pleco breeding. Got a couple random guppies in there, but nothing too crazy. This tank is cool, but I've shown off stuff like this a bunch of times in different videos kind of highlighting it. So we got some baby Plecos in here. I just sold a bunch, I think like last month. So most of these guys are a little bit smaller, but doing well, keeping it pretty stable. I just did a huge water change on it the other day, so it's a little cloudy, but got to clean those sponge filters out. But the fish are happy, they're getting fed a whole bunch, and I think this tank's still kind of fun with the different colored gravel and everything. Over here we still got the 20-gallon saltwater sponge filter tank running strong. So here we got our flame angel doing really well. And to be honest, since he is just him and we have I think a crab in here, I know we have a crab in here because he's cool. He'll run up to the front and kind of grab some food whenever I drop algae wafers in there. But I feed it pretty small. I cleaned the front of the glass the other day with those magnet cleaners. Those things are a lifesaver. If you don't have a magnet cleaner, go get one and buy some razor blades to clean the hard stuff. But super nice. I dropped in the other day, scrubbed the glass off. I kind of like keeping the sides a little more algae. I think the fish feels safer on the sides because you can't see other fish, and over here we have a mirror. But yeah, this tank's been running strong. I haven't done a water change in like 3 months because whenever we do water changes on the salt water, things usually go wrong. Not always, but there's not enough waste in this tank to really need to do anything. But I started this tank up with just tap water, dechlorinated it, added salt, added some sand and some rock, all dry rock, and then I added a cyclo sponge filter from the store. And I did lose a couple fish in the beginning, but now it's pretty stable. Nitrates are staying low, so I'm not really changing the water. I just topped it off yesterday with some water that was sitting in the fish room at room temperature because the room is heated. And he's super healthy, super active. You can see him kind of zooming around, and I love the flame angels. He won't get too much bigger, and this tank is just kind of how it is, and I'm not going to change anything because it's working fine. Down here is a little 5-gallon tank, nothing too exciting, but I got like a Scud culture
You can see them all kind of swimming around, and a couple snails, some down here. But basically all I do is just add a big algae wafer, not algae wafer, a big piece of flake food, maybe every day or so, and a little chunk of algae wafer every here and now. And then I'll top it off over here, right where I put that flower pot so it doesn't stir everything up. But I really haven't changed water in this for a few months now. I just kind of top it off, and they're breathing. There's a bunch in there. If I need to kind of get some out, all I do is just drop a dry net in there. They all swarm to it. I don't know why. They get all over it. Pick the net up. You got a bunch of scuds. You can feed it to some fish or whatever you gotta do. Moving over here, we have our no water change tank with our dwarf Rami. This guy is super cool. He kind of just zooms around. He's actually really active now. Whenever I go to feed him, he knows it's me now. He comes up. He's healthy. He's kind of stable. The nitrates in here are actually, I feel like, getting a little bit too low because I have all this duckweed was growing like crazy for a while. Now it's starting to die back. I feel like it's got a lack of like nutrients. So I just topped the tank off the other day. It was getting kind of low. I did add a little bit of fertilizer, like a liquid fertilizer, just like a couple drops, maybe like a milliliter does like 10 gallons or something like that. Like 10 milliliters is 10 gallons. I did like 5 milliliters, which is like 10 drops, something like that for a 5-gallon tank. So I added some in there. Hopefully that'll help him out a little bit and adding some fresh water. But he's doing fine. Hopefully the plants will start growing a little bit more, because that's really the only time I mess with this tank is when I top it off or I net out some duckweed, just to kind of keep it stable. Because just one fish, feed him pretty minimal amounts, and he's doing well. Above that, we got this 10-gallon tank, super crystal clear. I just enjoy this tank because we got a couple plants here that are growing nice. Once I cut it and kind of replanted it, it grew like 3 new ones where it was cut. I don't know the name of these plants, but we have some of the dirt, the aqua soil dirt up front, then just gravel in the back. We do have some snails and shrimp in here, not a whole bunch. To be honest, the tank probably needs more fish and more nutrients coming into it, because the tank is super crystal clear, but you can see the plants are kind of, some of them are wilting back. They just need a little bit more nutrients. But like these ones that floated away, they're growing roots and they're doing well. So they're kind of feeding off the water column, which you think these ones that are planted in the soil would get more nutrients from the aqua soil, obviously. But oh well, I think the tank looks good from a distance. Probably throw some maybe some neons in here. Some neon tetras look sweet, I think. That actually might be my next step, because I had some shrimp in here I was trying to breed, but I didn't want to overfeed because I was getting a bunch of snails, and then the shrimp kind of died back. So something's got to happen with this tank. As of right now, I think it's good from a distance. It needs some more fish though. And then last tank we have over here is a 10-gallon. I had this at work for a while, and then I upgraded it to a 90-gallon cichlid tank, which is pretty cool. I'll try to throw a picture of it right here. But yeah, I think that tank looks really nice. I've been wanting to upgrade the tank at work for a long time, and I built that stand myself a while ago, so it's like a rock. That thing's not going anywhere. But in here we have a lot of cool guppies, kind of just doing their thing. They've bred a few times. These are all on like their 2nd generation. I haven't really added any fish to it. We got a Pleco in here somewhere. The moss is a little bit strange because the lighting is very dim. Just kind of a stock kit. But the tank does really well. I hardly do water changes on it. Whenever it gets low, I'll drain some out, top it off. I don't really mess with the gravel too much. I did want to make this like a beta tank or something. But as for right now, it's doing fine with the guppies, so I'm gonna kind of let it ride out. Last thing I want to show over here, I just got this new light. I'm gonna put a link for it down in the description. This is a light for like house plants and stuff. I got it from a company. They sent it to me. I'm gonna put all their information below. I'll put their name of it right here on the screen if you guys want to check it out. Pretty cool light. It was like 60 bucks. They sent it to me. But I want to do something over here where, I apologize I haven't done it yet. I've been meaning to do this for a while. Just been kind of behind on the fish room stuff, been like quarantining, things like that, so I can't really go to the store and get everything I want. But whether I just kind of germinate some plants down here and do like maybe just a little side fern or something, or what I really want to do is get a mini pump for one of these tanks and do like another aquaponics and hang the light from the roof. So we can feed the plants from the fish water and then the fish waste. The plants are going to kind of clean the water and get fed from the fish. You know how that stuff works. I can do more videos on it, but if you remember when I used to have my little mint aquaponics, I really did enjoy that. And now I have some adequate lighting where I actually can kind of
grow more plants and get more of a kind of dialed in system. So that's something that's going to be coming out in the future. If you guys have any plant recommendations, that's kind of all new stuff to me. I know a lot about the fish, I'm learning about the plants, but I don't know a whole lot about plants that grow out of water. So if you guys have any recommendations on different plants I can use, ideas for setups, maybe I have a 90-gallon stand. I could put it on this whole wall and I could put that above it and do like a full aquaponics. So I'm not really sure what to do there, but I've been dialing this light and just kind of running on the timer because it has fans on it. I was curious how hot it got when it turned on, things like that. Everything on the package, reading the specs of the light, seems really good. It tells you what distance to hang the light for how big the plant is, etc. So now I just got to find some plants I like and get a little setup there, or debate if I want to do aquaponics. So I have to get that kind of media, to get the pumps, get the speed and everything dialed in. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Comment below, like the video if you liked it. Hopefully you guys are all doing well, you're staying healthy and safe. Hopefully your fish tanks are doing well, and hopefully you guys are enjoying them, most importantly. These tanks can be a lot of fun, the fish can be really cool. Try not to get overwhelmed. Sometimes I think if you got one cool fish tank, it's nicer than having 50 fish tanks that kind of just run your life. So I'm definitely finding that balance, and I kind of need to do it a little bit more. But my tanks are more self-sustaining now once I've started to get more and properly filling my tanks with less fish and also adding more plants. Definitely can help kind of keep more of a natural system where everything's more self-sustainable. And now I'm doing water changes every 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks versus twice a week, which is just a lot of labor intensiveness, and you don't get to enjoy the tanks. But thanks for watching, guys. Check out some of my older videos and older playlists. I'll put them on the screen here. And let me know how you guys are all doing and what you want me to do videos on next. So thanks for watching and thanks for checking in. See you guys.